Hi, this is your host Apil Bhartia and welcome to TFL Let's Talk, Cubecon and Cloud Con special. And today we have with us for the first time Saiyam Pathak, Principal Developer Advocate at Loft Labs. Saiyam, it's great to have you on the show.
Yeah, it's great to be here, Swapnil. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. You are a celebrity in this space, so it's my pleasure to talk to you today. You recently joined Loft. We have known each other from before the Loft days. So I want to know a bit about your own journey, your own story. What got you into open source? What got you into cloud native Kubernetes ecosystem? And then after that, we will talk about what attracted you to Loft.
My journey in cloud native began when I was working in HP. So I joined HP. I was working there as a Java developer, library developer. And then slowly I transitioned one day when one of the colleagues left a Docker enterprise kind of project. So I got the opportunity to take that up. And since then, it has been the whole DevOps dive in that I did. And then, projects start coming in. I started learning about cloud. I started learning about Kubernetes. And then I pivoted to different organizations. Like I worked at Oracle when they were pivoting to the Gen 2 infrastructure, developing their Oracle Kubernetes engine. So I was solution engineer there. I was one of the first ones to, use that, give feedback, do some integrations, and that was fun times. And then at Walmart, I worked on the machine learning platform when it was not that much of a buzz as much it is today. So we used to work on Kubeflow, Seldon, and all those stuff. And I did the Rancher integration as well. So I have been long, known the Rancher folks. And then I moved to Civo, where I started. This transition was pretty interesting because till now I was either as a software engineer or I was working in as a SRE or a DevOps engineer. But now the profile became of a technical evangelist, where I was supposed to kind of, content creation was one part, researching was one part, and, creating POCs and stuff was another part. So I learned a lot. I created a lot of POCs, researched a lot in the CNCF ecosystem. I started my own thing as well with that, teaching cloud native, and dived into, now I'm dived into the CNCF ecosystem, KubeCons, conferences, talks, meetups, and then that's where due to the stuff that I have been doing at Cube Simplify, which is my YouTube channel. So I used to interview just like you are doing, but more on the technical side of things, like deep dive hands-on stuff. So I used to showcase the new fancy things out there. And one of the fancy things was vCluster back in 2021, I think. And I had Lucas on my stream to demo and talk about vCluster. So that's how I know kind of Lucas from the stream that he has done with me already. And recently, I have seen Loft has done great work. They raised a Series A, and I just reached out to Lucas on if there is some synergies, and if he wants to kind of take things to next level with respect to the developer advocacy. And that's how I got into Loft. And I know the mission, I know the problem of multi-tenancy, and I know the best player out there. So that's why I'm here.
When we look at the CNCF landscape or whole cloud native landscape, and if you look at your show also, you have hosted a lot of folks. What did you see in Loft that you're like, hey, these are the right people at this right time to get into the career change?
So the thing is, earlier the problem was Kubernetes adoption. Now the problem is post-adoption. Now it's not the scenario where the organizations are, some organizations are still researching, but if you take about the majority from what I have seen being in the cloud native space, and especially at an infra company previously, is that the Kubernetes adoption has grown massively within the enterprises, and startups already start with the Kubernetes clusters. Enterprises are way into the Kubernetes cluster, but now there's a huge problem that we have so many Kubernetes clusters. Now people want to, that's why we have been hearing a lot of terms like FinOps. So FinOps came because there was a problem that people are now having cost problems, a lot of cost problems, a lot of cluster, a lot of maintenance problems. So how we can solve that? And multi-tenancy is one solution. So if you go back in time and you see there was a SIG multi-tenancy within Kubernetes, which is actually which is retired, and it is archived on GitHub in, I think, October 2023, something like that. So that SIG is not there, but yeah, the goal and the mission that time also was that we need to reduce the number of clusters so that there is less maintenance cost, and there is there is less maintenance, and there is a cost savings that can be happening, because there are thousands and thousands of cluster that people are provisioning per team, per tenant, and per environment. So there is like so many clusters. So that's why I joined a company that is working on the day two problem, and that too very focused on Kubernetes. So I wanted still to be in the CNCF ecosystem, still to be solving the problem within the ecosystem. Also, who cares about the community? That was my core part. And Loft has a history of creating open source products. They created DevSpace, they created JS Policy, they created vCluster, they created DevPod. So they have this whole portfolio where they create and empower the developers to do something good by creating those open source projects. And that's what got me like, yeah, this is something that has a combination of solving the new set of challenges that come with the Kubernetes adoption, plus empowering the community, and building out the community, respecting the community, appreciating the work that people are doing. So those were the things that got me attracted towards Loft.
How you have seen this shift, and if you look at Loft as a company and you as an outsider, what role do you see they are playing with all these open source based technologies, with the also the evolution of personas that you're seeing in the cloud native space?
So I have seen the evolutions, and one of the evolutions that I would like to highlight over here is DevOps and platform engineering, and obviously GenAI is another one that has come. So all three, and I'll take into bits and pieces. So what happens is, when you talk about we talk about DevOps, and there was a shift, and that's where media played an important role, and there was a lot of marketing that you might have also heard DevOps is dead and long live kind of platform engineering kind of things, but actually what that is just the marketing stuff. So people have this platform, and platforms were built before it was actually named like internal developer platforms or IDPs. So like I said, when I was at Walmart, we were already working on an internal developer platform. It simply is that basically as a team, if I need a Kubernetes cluster, there is an API within the company that I can request, and I get a Kubernetes cluster, or is, so on and so forth with all the stuff. So there is a central place, a central platform that, that has all the pieces glued together. And then there are different teams that can request, or API based, or UI, whatever the fancy things these days, they are there. So there were things before, but now it is more streamlined, more fancy terms. Building IDPs, internal developer platform, is necessary for everyone. Yes, sure, build those internal developer platforms. And where I see Loft, it's very interesting, because now people are talking about in the cloud native ecosystem, the IDPs. And in the IDPs, you need Kubernetes clusters. And the best thing is with vCluster, so vCluster, I always say that just like, you have your virtual machines that are slice of the bare metal stuff with the hypervisor layer. So vClusters are the slice of the Kubernetes clusters. But in the end, you feel that you are the owner of that cluster. Similar, like you are living in an apartment, and you have a lot of apartments there, but for your apartment, you are the owner. Similar to that, for the Kubernetes cluster, the small virtual cluster, you are the owner of that. So that becomes a very critical piece. So in an IDP, if you put a vCluster in, and if people are requesting Kubernetes clusters, you create a virtual cluster, get the kubeconfig file, and give it to them. So I think in platform engineering, vCluster fits in very well. There have been books that people have written with vCluster in it. There have been a lot of video series that I have seen on the internet by building an IDP from scratch and using vCluster, because it actually makes sense. Every team gets their own Kubernetes cluster, and what's better than a virtual cluster, because you can save costs, you can save control plane, shared platform stack costs. Next thing is the GenAI and the GenAI and Kubernetes story. So yes, since we are on the inferencing side, we are on the infra part of things. So I won't talk about the machine learning models or how good a particular model is, but yeah, how we can do better inferencing. So that is something where I think, within vCluster as well, you can have scenarios where you will be able to create the virtual clusters, and those virtual clusters sitting on the GPU nodes, and then using the latest Kubernetes feature, dynamic resource allocation, and stuff like that to make good use of how effectively we can use those GPUs. So I think with all the shifts that is happening, vCluster still fits perfectly with most of the stories out there that are even growing. But on the whole, we want to solve the problem of multi-tenancy, and I think like there are a few players, but how vCluster approaches it is, instead of cluster per tenant, we focus more on control plane per tenant, because in the end it's the control plane that matters, and we want every customer, every team, or every environment is having a control plane instead of a cluster per tenant. And that theory, I think, connects very well with the enterprises, with the people, and that's why, like, the company is growing.
If you look at uh, this pattern in the market, and if you look at the way Loft itself is evolving, of course, there will be a lot of exciting announcement that you folks will be making at KubeCon. I don't want to talk about any of that because we'll talk about them when it's ready. But KubeCon is almost here. Talk a bit about what kind of presence from of Loft we can expect at this event.
At KubeCon, we have a lot of things that are planned. So one is we have a booth. So we will be there at the booth. Our team will be there at the booth. A few of us have talks. So we'll be talking. We'll be there at the platform engineering day. And we have a talk over there. We'll be having talks at the main KubeCon as well. So you should check out that. We'll be having very interesting book signings. So that will also be happening. And yes, we'll be doing some of the product announcements. So again, the product announcements is more on the side of what we have heard from the customers. Like, this particular piece would be great addition. This particular piece would be a great addition. So I think accumulating that and building out slowly and slowly on top of it is something very interesting that you will be able to see. I think vCluster Platform 4 was GA'd a few days back. So that change log is pretty good, which gives you ability to import the clusters, import the virtual clusters created by the open source project without an agent. Is something pretty cool, pretty neat that people have been demanding for a long, long time. So like those, there will be very interesting announcements during KubeCon. So I think, and I am very excited because, first, yes, I'm there part of Loft. I love talking about open source. I love the community and KubeCon. Like, I have been talking, speaking to people, meeting people like you. So I think it's always great to be at a community conference like KubeCon, but I'm excited to meet people, understand their challenges, what are their current challenges, because we know the Kubernetes adoption is on the rise, and also very interested to hear about the GenAI, because we have heard, if you see the KubeCon email, there are some featured sessions, and most of the sessions are like Gen AI based, or AI inferencing or dynamic resource allocation. So I would like to see where this space is kind of going, where the GPU space is going, and what are some of the challenges that they are facing. So I think challenges is what I see, and also startups is the place where I definitely go. Two places: startups and Project Pavilion. Project Pavilion is raw. It's no vendor pitch, so it's very neat, pure. And startup area is about innovation, like what new people are bringing in, what new problems they are solving in. So these two areas I'll definitely visit. Plus, would love to meet more and more people and understand their issues, problems, and tell what we are bringing in.
I mean, you have been part of this ecosystem for a very long time. Most of, especially in this community, people work from home. I just, talked to Linus also after a very long time. And, a lot of people in our space are kind of introvert. We just, want to be on our computer. We don't want to interact with folks, just leave me alone. We don't like Zoom meetings. But these physical events, they bring a totally different energy, totally different chemistry, totally different kind of, vibe. What role do you see of events like KubeCon, Cloud Native Con for this ecosystem? How does it contribute to more innovations?
I think CNCF has provided a very good, nice, safe, diversified ecosystem for not only projects but also for the people. You said a very interesting point. There are a lot of introverts. A lot of introvert people are there in this whole ecosystem, and not everybody likes to speak. They just like to be a listener. And KubeCon is actually a place where introverts are welcomed so much. What I always say, just go to any booth and just stand there. There are people who want to talk to you and want to show their product. I mean, you don't have to speak. I mean, if you come at my booth, I'll first start the conversation. I'll initiate that. I'll show you my product, my demo, and what innovation we are bringing in. So I think it opens up that first filter of conversation as well. And introverts also feel safe that it's totally okay. I just have to stand at a particular booth and I will be able to communicate well. And also for the innovation, when you see the startup hub, you'll always see the startup ecosystem growing. The number of startup sponsors keeps on growing. So I think that shows that there is still a lot of work on the day two operations. Some of them are still solving the day one operations in a unique way. So it like unique kernels are there. So there are a lot of very interesting stuff going on out there. WebAssembly is another one. I know you have hosted for me on a lot of times, Matt, and so WebAssembly is one. So we always see something new. GitOps, we saw, during KubeCons, WebAssembly, SpinCube, everything, every interesting thing we always see at KubeCon. So there is a lot of innovation I look forward to when I visit KubeCon. There is something new I'll be able to learn today, some new topic, project, or maybe a new wave itself, like WebAssembly wave. So I think that's pretty cool.
As we were discussing earlier, every KubeCon has its own theme, and it also reflects where the industry's last two KubeCons. We heard a lot of discussion on GenAI, AI. In the past time, security became a big, topic because before that, security used to be an afterthought. It was someone else's problem, but now it's moving in developers' pipeline. So we have seen a lot of paradigm shift that has happened. What kind of theme, what kind of discussions you are expecting for this event, and what are the things that you are excited about at this event?
I think GenAI is one that I'm excited about. All the new features, new stuff that is happening. Sustainability is another angle. I think the CNCF. So I am tag ENV sustainability lead, and I really like to understand more about the tools. My talk also is around sustainability. So I think sustainability is also one of the big themes out there within the CNCF. Last time there was a hackathon by United Nations. Arun Gupta was there, Janaki Ram, myself, we all were there. So I think those are the very nice initiatives that are happening to create something which using the current tooling to measure the carbon footprint of your software and how to make Kubernetes more sustainable. So there is a sustainability week actually going on. It's actually second week of October, but people kind of do global events all around the world. So we did a sustainability series where we hosted, how WebAssembly is suitable for sustainability, how vCluster contributes toward more sustainable Kubernetes ecosystem, and what are the mission and the goals of the tag as well by measuring every CNCF project having its own carbon footprint and people being able to choose between those projects. So I think I'm very excited to talk about people. Yes, vCluster is one. Sustainability is one that I'm excited to talk about. And for learning perspective, the GenAI is one, and all around it that I would like to learn more about.
Saiyam, thank you so much for joining me today, and of course talk about your journey and of course your arrival at Loft and what to expect at KubeCon and CloudNetiCon. Thanks for all those great insights, and I look forward to seeing you at the event and talk to you again. Thank you.
Likewise, thank you, Swapnil, for having me.